So I was not planning on making a drama review video for this until I binged it really recently, and it's just too good, and I feel like I just really want to promote it. So yeah, I feel like that was kind of the reason why I wanted to start doing drama reviews, because there are dramas that I really like that I wish more people talked about, and so Let Free: The Curse of Taekwondo is one of those dramas. So, I am back with another drama review that was kind of unplanned. Yeah, similar to Love in the Big City, I was not even aware that this drama was airing at the time that it was. But basically, right now, there's kind of a little bit of a drama drought. So then I was kind of looking for things to watch just because. I actually have not heard anything about this drama, but I watched it, and then as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is actually surprisingly really, really good. And it just kept getting better and better until I finally finished it. And then I was like, oh, okay. So then I was looking up reviews, and it turns out that it is a Hwang Da Seul work. And if you don't know, I absolutely love To My Star. It is one of my favorite short dramas of all time, and honestly, I feel like it could give some like full-length dramas a run for their money, which is quite impressive considering it's like 1/4 the duration. But yeah, that's how well developed her characters are and how complex they are. So I absolutely love Hwang Da Seul. Don't get me wrong, the name is awful. Even after watching it, I still think the name is kind of awful. I just think it could have had a better ring to it. I understand the point of the name, especially after watching everything, but it just isn't the most attractive. Let Free: The Curse of Taekwondo. It also sounds kind of weird in English. Even the Korean title, which is like literally the English in Korean, like 태권도의 저주를 풀어줘, which is literally like let go of the curse or whatever. But I could not resist making a video after I found out that Hwang Da Seul was the director writer, because if it was just good and it was just like any newbie director writer, I was kind of like, okay, I'll watch their future works. But because it's Hwang Da Seul work, I feel like it just added more layers to it, because knowing her previous writing, I feel like it's just she's really good at writing complex characters. And if I'm being honest, I didn't understand these two as deeply on a level that I understood To My Star characters. So obviously, the drama I am reviewing today is Let Free: The Curse of Taekwondo, and the screenwriter and director is Hwang Da Seul, which is like the entire reason I'm making this video, because I love Hwang Da Seul works. Like every single one of them are good. And this was a 8-episode drama with 35-minute long episodes, which is pretty standard for her other dramas. Like she only makes kind of like shorter dramas. Yeah, quite like only 4 hours basically. So it's like a long movie. And so the plot follows high school student Do Hui, who lives with his father who runs a taekwondo gym in a rural area. He despises the violent and brutal atmosphere of his home. One day, his cheerful and bright peer, Chu Young, who dreams of going to college with a taekwondo major, comes from Seoul. With Ju Young's arrival, small and large joys begin to fill Do Hui's previously dark life. However, the oppressive culture symbolized by his father ultimately twists their relationship, and after an unexpected incident forces them apart, they reunite 10 years later. It warmly portrays the transformation of feelings that start with innocent excitement into a deep love that embraces and heals each other's wounds. Okay, so for characters, obviously, there's only two that I really feel the need to talk about. So there's Do Hui, and so yeah, Do Hui is also the Chonggyung Il, which is like the number one student in the entire school. So he's like really smart. And yeah, he doesn't really have any friends. He used to. So that, I guess we can talk about Hyunho real quick. And so Hyunho is like this one dude who he used to be really, really close with. And both of them probably had a little crush on each other at the time. But at some point, Hyunho kind of turns against him. And this is kind of tying in with Do-hoi's dad, like abusing his peers. So then his peers kind of like go from being his friend to like bullying him and taking it out on him because of something his dad did. So anyways, yeah, so he's kind of like living this kind of loner life until Chu Young comes in the picture. And so Chu Young is our other main character. And so anyways, yeah, then Chu Young, he comes from Seoul. He's hiding his dark past behind a smile. He's super bubbly, friendly. He's good at taekwondo. But yeah, his isn't really ambitious, but he's super sweet, and he obviously witnesses everything that Do-hye is going through and just like is trying to be nice to him. And then this is really where they begin to start bonding. And so I will just immediately go into the summary. I actually did not write it down this time because, as you can tell, I was very unprepared to make this video. I'm just gonna spitball it because, yeah, I think the whole reason I made this video was to talk about the review. So that's like the main point of it. So basically it starts with Chuyoung coming from Seoul and he moves into Do-hwe's family, and Do-hwe is taking really good care of Chuyoung, like making him food for breakfast, lunch and dinner kind of situation. And then he also spars with Chuyoung because basically Do-hwe used to be a very successful Taekwondo athlete, and he ends up quitting because it was just like one of the few things he had in his power and control over his dad, because his dad is this violent. So basically Do-hwe he feels like he has that power to stop doing Taekwondo. And so yeah, that obviously makes his dad really upset because he was really successful at it. And but yeah, so Chuyoung and Do-hwe spar together, and they also like live together, and Do-hwe is obviously keeping a respectable distance, whereas Chuyoung is trying to be buddy with him and trying to get closer to him. And then one day Chuyoung, because he was obviously living with them, he witnesses the abuse that Do-hwe is going through. Do-hwe gets really upset, obviously, and he's like, I don't want you to pity me, I don't need your pity. But yeah, over time, Do-hwe eventually warms up to Chuyoung. Yeah, so Chuyoung keeps being nice to Do-hwe, and eventually Chuyoung kisses Do-hwe, and the two eventually start dating in secret, obviously. And yeah, they kind of are having their happy high school moments. They kind of dream of going to college together. They call it Hanseol University, which is basically like a play on Seoul University, which is like the best school in Korea. So yeah, they like talk about those dreams. And in the meantime, basically, Do-hwe is really busy studying, and Chuyoung is trying to go for Taekwondo. And during this time, it like becomes exam day basically, which is like the turning point. And Chuyoung basically gets on Do-hwe's dad's nerves, and he basically gets hit too. So yeah, so what's his face? Do-hwe is aware of this information. He takes his exam, and as we'll find out a little bit later, he bombs it. Yeah, we also, I don't know when it gets revealed, but Chuyoung actually is sent away to this area away from Seoul because he got kicked out of school because he hit a teacher. So yeah, he got like expelled, and that's also what he's doing in this like country town area, I guess. So anyways, yeah, so exam day happens, and Chuyoung is taken away because he gets into a fight with Do-hwe's dad, obviously. And yeah, so 12 years passes, and Chuyoung is now a Taekwondo instructor, and Do-hwe is like nowhere to be found. Chuyoung is still keeping in touch with Do-hwe's dad for some reason, and eventually it really just takes Do-hwe's dad passing away, which is when Do-hwe finally appears, and him and Chuyoung reunite. It turns out that Hyunho and Do-hwe have been in contact, so yeah, there's that. Hyunho is now a lawyer. Do-hwe turns out is a hagwon teacher, so like just like what are they? Hagwons are those tutoring areas, so yeah, he's like a teacher like that. And turns out he ended up going to Hanseol University and is like super living it large, I guess. He like makes a lot of money and is very reputable teacher, I guess. So yeah, he's like the elite class now. So yeah, the funeral happens. Do-hwe is a little bit indifferent to his father's death. I mean, rightfully so, because his dad was abusive to him his entire life. So, you know, fair enough. Eventually, Chuyoung and Do-hwe run into each other in the same neighborhood, which is actually just Chuyoung's neighborhood. And it turns out that Do-hwe has his hagwon like center is in the same area. Yeah, it eventually develops into a romantic thing again.
그것도 모르고 지금 계속 너한테 내 말을 제대로 이해했으면 네가 나한테 비겁하다고 욕을 해야지. 하지 마. 그렇게 생각하지 마. 내가 잘못한 건데 내가 너한테 비겁하다고 얘기를 왜 해? 나도 모른 척했어. 아침에 네가 날 찾아오면 어떡하지? 그래서 다 알고 수능도 못 치고 나온 거면 어떡하지? 너니까 더 힘들었을 거 아니야.
The only thing is, it just appears that Do-hwe is not talking about the past and not communicating anything and his emotions about what happened. And, you know, Chuyoung's just dying to know.
현우는 들어온 것 때문에 그래? 친구끼리 갑자기 밥 먹을 수 있잖아. 아니야, 또 촉이라는 게 있겠지. 야, 이런 거 쟤랑은 안 해. 이게 궁금했던 거지. 그래, 정확하게 그게 궁금했는데 알려줘서 고맙다. 됐네 그럼? 아니, 제대로 된 대화 한 번은 안 했잖아. 어젯밤에 엄청 설렜어. 내가 자주 다니는 곳에 너 데리고도 가고 싶고 오늘 어떤 얘기도 나눌 생각이 좋았는데 오늘은 또 모르는 사이처럼 돌아간 것 같잖아. 무슨 얘기? 다 하고 다 풀었잖아. 나는 이것도 네가 만든 건지 언제 만든 건지 졸업은 언제 했는지 휴학은 했는지 쟤 말고 친한 애 또 누군지 직업은 적성에 맞는지 여기 오기 전에 어디에서 뭘 했는지 하영은 다 알잖아. 나도 알고 싶다고. 주영아, 이렇게 질문이 많아. 난 너처럼 과거 얘기가 재밌지가 않아. 시간 앞으로만 가지 뒤로 돌아가지 않잖아. 뒤로 안 돌아가도 또 돌아오지.
Jooyoung one by one is starting to uncover Dohae's lies, and it turns out that Dohae is actually lying about being like very successful and stuff. He didn't actually go to the college, and it turns out he forged his credentials.
알았으면 가라고. 이미 다 알아놓고 모른 척하면서 쳐 울지 말고 가라고. 뭘 알았대? 모른다니까. 잘난 척하더니 꼴 좋다고 비웃든지 소름 끼친다고 욕하고 도망치든지 하지. 왜 울고 지랄인데. 이게 나야. 그냥 아무 쓸모도 없는 새끼라고. 고생했다. 밤이고 낮이고 다 알아내고 모른 척하느라 바빴겠네. 내가 진짜 갔으면 좋겠어. 나로 가자. 알아서 갈게. 네가 나라면 어떡할 건데? 내가 사랑하는 사람이 가장 원했던 걸 망치게 만들고 그 이후로 보지도 못하고 미안하다 말도 못하고 애써 다시 만났는데 과거도 나도 계속 부정당하면 근데 그게 내가 다 잘못했잖아. 내가 뭘 어떡할까? 누가 뭐 어떻게 해달래? 도혜야, 나는 있잖아. 다시 너 안 떠나고 싶어. 내가 진짜 싫어진 게 아니고 꼴도 보기 싫은 게 아니면 그런 말 하지 마. 너 왜 자꾸 나 버리려고 해? 제발 나 좀 버리지 마. 무슨 일 있어도 네가 제발 꺼져달라고. 내가 너무 싫다고 빌 때까지 끝까지 옆에 있을게. 뒷딸 아니야. 네 잘못 하나도 없어. 네 잘못이란 말 하지 마. 나는 아빠랑 다르다는 걸 증명해야 되는데 사람들은 내가 한절대라고 하면 과거가 어떻든 다 믿고 좋아해줘. 대단하게 느껴. 내가 가진 게 아무것도 없어도 다 좋아해줘. 날 증명할 수 있는 게 하나밖에 없어서 그래서 그랬어.
One major turning point is basically one of Dohae's students is also getting abused by his mom and his parents, I guess. This child is like getting injections to make him smarter or something like that. And so Dohae recognizes this child abuse. He decides to confront the mom. Turns out the mom is a professor at the university in which Dohae said he went to. So his mom catches Dohae's lies, and then so Dohae has the information that she's abusing her son, and he kind of can ruin her reputation. And then he gets a decision of whether or not he can continue with his lies or just confess. So he does decide to ultimately confess, obviously with kind of like support with Jooyoung as the support on his side. But yeah, they break everything in the Taekwondo gym, and that kind of just symbolizes Dohae finally breaking free of the Taekwondo curse, kind of getting over his father's abuse and really restarting his life. So yeah, Dohae ultimately confesses that his crimes, and he just restarts. He quits his job, gets fired, whatever, and he just kind of like takes all responsibility because obviously the parents get mad. The parents of the kids he was tutoring get mad. So yeah, then he decides to start again and take the college entrance exam, which is kind of silly because one detail is that he had already taken it twice. The first time he obviously did bad, and then he takes it a second time, and obviously it still didn't work out, and then that's when he goes into like forging the credentials. I guess one detail in here that I also forgot to mention is Hyunho's relationship with Dohae, and basically, yeah, Hyunho realizes that he allowed the other kids to bully Dohae because he had feelings and was kind of in denial about those feelings, and yeah, eventually, but the thing is, Dohae and Hyunho stay in contact throughout the 12 years. And yeah, Hyunho helps Dohae cover up his forgery things. And yeah, it's a little Hyunho, which now he realizes that he had feelings for Dohae. Turns out it's a little too late because Dohae already likes Jooyoung. So yeah, so Jooyoung and Dohae are being very domestic. Jooyoung is basically taking care of Dohae as he studies full time. And yeah, we get a lot of sweet moments of them just kind of living day-to-day life. And yeah, that's just something that's just something to be very grateful for, as Ju Young talks about. They found a love for a lifetime, so they really aren't that behind because obviously Do-hye is restarting over everything again.
그리고 우린 지금 벌써 남들이 평생 찾아 헤매는 사랑을 이미 만났잖아. 그게 어디야? 난 그걸로도 삶의 큰 목표를 이뤘다고 생각하는데.
가족이 돼줘서 고마워.
And so yeah, that's kind of where I will end my summary. Yeah, that was kind of a bad summary. And so I think we might as well go into the pros right away. Real quick, I rated this a 9 out of 10, and the only reason it's like missing that 1 point is because of 2 cons, but I'll talk about the pros first. So one thing that I think is really great about this is it's very rewatchable. I know I gave a really bad summary. I had no idea where this plot was going, if I'm being honest. This is one of the few dramas I went into not knowing what's going on whatsoever, because if it was a Hwang Da Seul work, I've seen every single one of her works, which is Where Your Eyes Linger, To My Star. There's one more. I don't know what else it is. But there's one more work of hers that I've also seen. I've seen all her works. And very stylistically, she has this very attention to detail kind of like subtle hints and things like that. I think she's really into those details that kind of make up the entire story. And so this was kind of the same. If I'm being honest, watching it, I was like, I don't really know what's going on. It was kind of like not that deep. I was just going to watch it lighthearted, like not going to make a video, obviously. I was just kind of like, whatever. But as I kept watching, I was like, wait, this is surprisingly deep. Like, these characters are surprisingly complex. Like, it is moving in directions that I didn't expect it to, because I feel like generally there's like not stereotype, but just like there's a natural, very cliche way to do things, and that was not the way it was done. So like as I kept watching, I was like, wait, this is actually really good. And by the time I reached the end, I went to reviews. Obviously I love doing that. Went on Reddit, and then there were like these threads, you can probably find them too, but yeah, there was these threads explaining their emotions, and that honestly really helps, because I watched it without thinking too deeply, which is also a problem. I really should have been paying like 100% attention while I was watching. And so yeah, it turns out this drama is just like an absolute gem, because it has all these hidden meanings, and like I think you really have to go back and rewatch it once after knowing the entire plotline to really see the details. And so that's always fun. I think it's always really great if of a drama you're able to rewatch it, because you know, you just want to repeatedly enjoy. I've rewatched To My Star a lot of times. There are a lot of scenes that like I can play on repeat. One of them being To My Star season 2 when they get back together. That scene, absolutely beautiful. I rewatch that scene all the time. The acting is beautiful. The build up to the characters. I love that scene. To My Star is a gem. To My Star 2 is also a gem, even though I know other people would not agree, but it is. To My Star 2 is so good. So for the pros, for other pros, I feel like they are pretty, not distinct, that is the word. I'm so bad at talking these days. I can't ever think of the right words. Characteristic of Hwang Da Seul works, that she writes some really complex characters who are very, very layered. I think one thing she obviously focuses on too, and if I'm being honest, this reminds me a lot of To My Star, about how angsty it is, and even the characters are pretty comparable in my opinion. Not that I remember either one of their names at the moment. Basically, the introverted one and the introverted main character of To My Star is very reminiscent of Do-hye in this one, and the bright bubbly one is very reminiscent of an actor. Yeah, he's an actor in To My Star, and in this one he's just a Taekwondo guy. But I think their characters are very comparable, where they're all bright and bubbly, with the introverted boy and the bright and bubbly guys hiding behind his dark persona, blah, blah, blah. That is kind of funny that the characters are so reminiscent of the To My Star characters. As I mentioned, they are super complex, super well thought out. The details of their actions, you can easily tell how it is reflective of what they've been through in the past. And, you know, we love to see it. I love to see complex characters. And so another thing I really loved is how it took an ordinary trope and put a spin on it. So one thing is we hear a lot about the importance of college exams, and the way I feel like this is obviously he forged his documents, and that was like the very first time we'd honestly ever gotten this plotline in a K-drama. Actually, in Sky Castle, this does happen with the sister, who is such a side character, but this was like the main focus of the story. And I really like that this was the main point of the story, because it kind of makes sense logically. I think I really liked how the plot progressed, because obviously Do-hye was just in a really bad place. Like, even if he was the smartest student in the school, going through that kind of like past, that traumatizing background, you are not in a position to like be able to do well and succeed in that case. And so obviously he was so desperate to succeed that he went through and he would do anything, and obviously he did. He forged documents to say that he did graduate from this college that he didn't graduate from. And I think it's realistic that he honestly was a failure, I guess. Like, he failed his exam and wasn't able to like get into the college of his dreams. He retook the exam again and he still wasn't able to succeed. So yeah, I think that was just really realistic of how life sometimes can go. Like, it's not perfect. I feel like in a K-drama, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, they're the smartest student in the school. Like that's just very common, you know? And then they live this perfect life, but that's not the reality, which is what I really love to see in this drama. And so yeah, I think it was just another way to get that point across about like, this is how important college is, that he literally commit a crime just to lie about his college background. So and on that similar vein is the way they talked about domestic violence. This is also a very common trope, and I think what I really like about Hwang Da Seul's work is she includes these details, and it's not just a so what. Like, in a lot of K-dramas, it'll just talk about like, oh, they got like abused growing up, and then it only really impacts them in one way, and you don't see it like manifesting in several ways in the way they express themselves. But I think it's very clear with Tohei that like this domestic violence has impacted him in so many different ways and so many different levels, and like every decision he makes is impacted by this background that has happened to him. So completely contributes to his character. And what I specifically like about this plot point, not that I like it in a good way, but just whatever. In like a plot context, it also ties in with the idea of corporal punishment, which is very common in Asia, especially what was like legal, obviously, and it just like very common in the past. And so to tie that in and give that like depth of like, this is the reality, because ultimately you're right. There are situations I feel like where you watch K-dramas and then they just like get abused and nobody cares. But in this case, it's not the fact that like nobody cares, it's the fact that it's normalized. And so yeah, I really liked how they approached it, and it was just this harsh reality of like, this is the way things happen, and it's just sad. And so yeah, I feel like tying in that piece also enriched my enjoyment of the drama. That's the way to put it. Oh, I guess, and on that note, I guess there's one more little detail of the fact that the dad is not doing this all while drunk. He does this while sober because the whole, I guess, corporal punishment thing. But yeah, I feel like there's a very generic K-drama domestic abuser kind of parent situation, dad specifically situation, but he's usually drunk and pathetic. But in this case, the dad is pathetic, but the dad is normal. He runs a Taekwondo gym. Like, he is not just like an unsuccessful guy that like gets depressed because of blah, 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 and then ends up abusing his family. Like, this is just your average ajashi. This is like the average man. And so him participating in this culture, I think really once again goes to show about how normalized corporal punishment was, how normalized domestic violence was, and how wrong it all is, and really just showing that like, oh, it's more common than you think, and not in a more like outlandish dramatic way. Like, this is a real story. So yeah, I think that's like one part I really liked about it. So now onto the cons, and there's only two. I think I touched a little bit on one of them, and it's the fact that the time jumps are really confusing. There's one scene where Ju-young goes to Hyun-ho and like beats him up, and I don't know where that happens in the gist of things, and I just think there was just so much time jumps. The whole 12-year thing, I think this is one of the details that I felt like it just happened just to happen, and I didn't really feel the duration of 12 years. Also, 12 years is so long. I do not know why it had to be 12 years. Like, what happened in 12 years? So like, all we know is Ju-young goes to college and then he's a Taekwondo instructor, but like, what happened in like the 10 years? Because he's only in college for like 4. So like, what happened in those 8 years, basically? I don't understand. And I guess same goes with, what's his face? Tohei. So obviously he wasn't in college for like 4 years. And then he ended up this tutoring gig, and obviously he's been tutoring for a while because he's pretty successful. He makes a decent amount of money. But I guess where did the rest of the 8 years go? I feel like it's just a large time jump, and it didn't really make sense to me why. So this was like the main detail that I felt like you just threw in this detail and didn't really like put it into the story. You just said and didn't do, you know? Yeah, I think just some of these timelines were hard to just confusing, because basically one thing is Chu-young is actually aware about Do-hye forging documents and lying about his past a little bit more in advance, but I feel like the exact timeline of things happening was really confusing. This might clear up in a second watch, but I feel like it wasn't even just me not paying attention good enough. I think the editing was a little bit like everywhere. There's just quite a lot of time jumps. So a little too confusing. And then I'm left on one confused note too. I do have to go back and rewatch the drama to really figure it out. But basically, there is one thing that I still don't understand that maybe if you watched it, you can answer me, or I'll just keep skimming through my Reddit forums. But basically, I do not understand Ju-young's relationship with Do-hye's dad, because Do-hye's dad is abusive. Do-hye's dad was bad to Do-hye. Why does Ju-young keep in touch with the dad, and what is his relationship with him? During the time that Do-hye's dad passes away, Ju-young wants to buy the gym because Do-hye's dad had offered Ju-young to take over the gym, and then Ju-young said no, and then his dad ended up passing away. So then Do-hye is like, not Do-hye, then Ju-young is super like, oh, I really want to take over the gym, sell the gym to me, like, please. And yeah, I'm just so confused what his relationship with this dad was, because it seemed pretty positive, even though he abused Do-hye. Like, I don't really get it. So yeah, if anyone kind of understands what that dynamic was it like out of guilt and something like that? But he like kept in touch with this dude, even if it was for Do-hye. He still like was positive and like seemed to like this guy, I guess. Like, I'm not too sure either. But yeah, that's kind of like the last confusion bit. I guess it can go to a con because I don't understand. Maybe if I rewatch it, I'll understand. But yeah. So that is all for today. I really swear this should be the last BL I talk about this year, and maybe for a while I should really get into my K-drama content and my C-drama content. It's just been a lot of things that I haven't been doing. I also finished The Rise of Ning recently. I never made a drama review video about it, but maybe I should go back and review it. What else am I watching? I think Family by Choice. I'll have a review on that one. Yeah, it's been a while. You know what's funny is I still never did my Love Next Door review, but I might just, I don't know, maybe I'll tie it in with Family by Choice. I don't know. But yeah, that was a very negative review that I should do at some point. I don't know when, but eventually, you know? Yeah, so that is all for today, and I'll see you in the next one.